When she starts to distance herself and ignore you, the instinctive reaction is almost automatic. You want answers. You want clarity. You want to understand what changed and why it feels like you're suddenly on the outside of something that once felt secure. So you reach out. You double text. You replay conversations in your head searching for mistakes. But this is where most people lose without realizing it, because distance is not confusion. Distance is information, and chasing it does not bring you closer, it pushes you further away. When someone pulls back, they are showing you their current emotional position. They may not explain it, they may not even fully understand it themselves, but their behavior is speaking clearly. Silence, delayed replies, emotional coldness, these are not puzzles meant to be solved through effort. They are signals meant to be observed. The moment you treat distance like an invitation to prove your value, you reverse the power dynamic. You move from being chosen to auditioning. And nothing erodes attraction faster than the feeling that someone is trying to earn a place they once naturally held. Chasing feels logical in the moment because your emotions are loud. Fear of loss makes urgency feel like love, but urgency communicates insecurity, not care. Every extra message, every just checking in, every attempt to force a conversation tells her something you never intend to say, that her attention is more valuable than your self-respect. And once that message is sent, even subconsciously, it changes how you are perceived. Not because she is cruel or calculating, but because attraction responds to emotional balance. When one person leans in while the other leans out, tension collapses. Stopping the chase is not about punishing her or playing games. It's about refusing to abandon yourself. It's about recognizing that if someone needs space, the strongest response is not pursuit but composure. When you stop chasing, you create a pause, and that pause is powerful. It interrupts the pattern. It removes pressure. It allows her to feel the absence of what she assumed would always be there. And absence, when paired with dignity, forces reflection in ways words never can. There is also a deeper reason why chasing fails. When you react immediately to distance, you train yourself to tolerate uncertainty at the cost of self-worth. You teach your mind that anxiety deserves action. Over time, this erodes your confidence and traps you in a cycle of over-investment. But when you choose to stop, you send a different signal to her and to yourself. You say, I noticed the change, and I respect myself enough not to beg for clarity. That internal shift matters more than any outcome. Understand this clearly. Stopping the chase does not mean you don't care. It means you care enough to act from strength rather than fear. It means you allow her behavior to reveal the truth instead of arguing with it. And if she truly values you, your calm withdrawal will not go unnoticed. It will stand in contrast to the emotional noise she may be surrounded by. It will feel rare. It will feel grounded. And if she doesn't respond, then you've saved yourself from investing further into someone who is already walking away. So when she distances herself, don't panic. Don't plead. Don't perform. Observe. Step back. Let her actions speak fully. Because the moment you stop chasing is the moment you stop losing yourself. And that is where real power begins. When someone you care about begins to pull away, the first battle is never with them, it's inside you. Your thoughts race, your chest tightens, and every unanswered message feels louder than it should. In that state, the urge to act becomes overwhelming. You want to say something, do something, fix something. But action taken from emotional chaos rarely fixes anything. It usually makes the situation worse. That's why before you send a single message or make a single move, you must regain control of your emotions. Not later. Not eventually. First, emotional control is not suppression. It's not pretending you don't care or forcing yourself to feel nothing. It's the ability to pause when your emotions are screaming for reaction. Because when fear is driving, logic disappears. You start reading meaning into silence that may not be there. You start imagining outcomes that haven't happened. And from that place, you don't communicate, you plead, accuse, or over-explain. None of those restore respect. None of those rebuild attraction. Right now, your nervous system is activated. Your body interprets distance as danger, as loss, as rejection. That's biology, not weakness. But maturity is knowing that feelings are signals, not commands. You don't have to obey every emotion just because it shows up. The strongest individuals are not those who feel less, they're those who feel deeply and still choose their behavior carefully. Control is not coldness, control is clarity. If you speak while emotionally charged, your words will carry tension, even if they sound calm on the surface. She will feel the weight behind them, the need, the urgency. And urgency communicates one thing: instability. It tells her that your emotional state depends on her response. That is a heavy burden for anyone to carry, and people instinctively distance themselves from emotional weight they didn't ask for. Regaining control removes that pressure. This is where silence temporarily becomes medicine. Not as a tactic, but as a reset. You step back not to manipulate, but to breathe, to think, to separate reality from fear. You remind yourself that one person's withdrawal does not define your worth. You ground yourself in routine, in movement, in purpose. You sleep, you eat, you work. You train your body and mind back into stability, and as your emotional intensity lowers, your perspective widens. From this grounded place, you begin to see the situation more honestly. You notice patterns you ignored. You recognize where you may have overextended. You see that you don't need immediate answers to survive this moment. That realization is powerful. It breaks the illusion that action is required right now. And once that illusion is gone, you regain choice. When you eventually decide to communicate or to remain silent, it will come from strength, not fear. Your words will be measured, your tone will be steady, and whether she responds or not, you will not collapse internally. That emotional independence is what creates respect. Not because it's impressive, but because it's rare. Most people let their emotions drive the wheel. Very few take control when it matters most. Remember this: nothing you say in a heightened emotional state will create the outcome you want. But everything you don't say while you regain control protects your dignity. So slow down. Breathe. Let the storm pass before you move. Because once you master your emotional state, the situation no longer controls you, and that is the foundation of everything that comes next. When someone begins to pull away, the most dangerous thing you can do is allow them to take over your inner world. Your phone becomes the center of your attention. Your thoughts loop around what they're doing, who they're with, and whether they're thinking about you. Every quiet moment turns into speculation. This is where real damage happens, not in the distance itself, but in the way you surrender your mental space. Because the moment she becomes the center of your thoughts, you hand over control without realizing it. Attention is not neutral. Whatever you focus on grows. When all your energy is pointed toward her absence, you shrink. Your mood starts to depend on her responses. Your motivation drops. Your confidence quietly erodes. And even if you never say it out loud, this internal imbalance begins to shape how you show up in the world. You become reactive instead of grounded. You wait instead of move. And waiting is one of the fastest ways to lose your sense of self. Removing her from the center of your mental world does not mean erasing feelings or pretending she doesn't matter. It means restoring proper order. She is a part of your life, not the source of it. When someone senses, consciously or unconsciously, that they occupy too much psychological space in your mind, attraction fades. Not because they are cruel, but because imbalance feels unsafe. Healthy desire requires two whole individuals, not one orbiting the other. This is why pulling your focus back to yourself is not selfish, it's necessary. You redirect your attention to what stabilizes you, your goals, your routines, your physical body, your work, the parts of your life that existed before her and will exist after, regardless of outcome. At first, this feels unnatural. Your mind will resist. It will pull you back into old thought patterns, back into checking your phone, back into imagined conversations. That's normal. But each time you choose to redirect your focus, you reclaim a piece of yourself. As you do this, something subtle begins to shift. Your emotional energy changes. You stop broadcasting need without words. Your presence becomes calmer, quieter, more centered. And that energy is felt even from a distance. People can sense when they are no longer being mentally chased. The pressure disappears. Curiosity replaces certainty. She may not immediately reach out, but she will feel the difference between someone who is waiting and someone who is living. There is also a deeper transformation happening inside you. When you remove her from the center of your mental world, you stop tying your identity to her behavior. Her silence no longer defines your value. Her mood no longer dictates your peace. You begin to experience a form of freedom that is unfamiliar but empowering. You realize that you don't need constant validation to feel solid. And that realization changes how you carry yourself. This is where true emotional strength is built. Not by forcing detachment, but by investing your attention where it actually belongs. The more you pour energy into your own life, the less you fear losing someone else. And paradoxically, that lack of fear is what makes you more attractive. Not because you are trying to be, but because you are no longer grasping. So if she distances herself, don't follow her into mental exile. Stay rooted where you are. Build your life so fully that her absence no longer empties it. Because the moment you stop centering her in your mind is the moment you start standing in your power, and that changes everything. When communication becomes strained, most people believe the solution is to talk more, to explain more, to clarify more. But when emotional balance is already off, words stop working the way you hope they will. They lose weight, they lose impact. And sometimes they do more harm than silence ever could. This is where understanding the power of absence changes everything, not as a strategy to provoke a reaction, but as a natural consequence of self-respect. When you keep talking while being ignored, you unintentionally train the other person to take your presence for granted. Your words become background noise. Your availability becomes expected. And the more available you are without reciprocity, the less valuable your presence feels. This isn't about worth, it's about perception. Human psychology assigns value to what is boundaries. When there are no boundaries, meaning fades. Absence is not abandonment, it's restraint. It's choosing not to overextend when the emotional exchange is no longer mutual. When you stop explaining yourself, something important happens. You stop trying to control how you are perceived. And the moment you stop controlling, you regain authority. Because confidence does not demand understanding, it allows misunderstanding without panic. Silence, when grounded in dignity, speaks directly to the subconscious. It creates space. And in that space, reflection begins. She may replay moments. She may notice the shift. She may feel the quiet where noise used to be. That absence becomes noticeable, not because it's loud, but because it's different. Pressure disappears and curiosity has room to form. This is something words cannot accomplish when emotions are uneven. There is also an internal reason why absence matters. When you stop filling the silence, you stop draining yourself. You conserve energy. You allow your emotions to settle instead of constantly reopening the wound. Each unsent message protects your peace. Each moment you resist the urge to explain reinforces your self-control. Over time, this builds a quiet confidence that doesn't need validation to exist. Letting absence do the talking also removes you from the role of persuader. You are no longer trying to convince someone to see your value. You are allowing your absence to highlight it naturally. And if she truly valued your presence, the lack of it will register. If she didn't, then your silence saves you from further investment in a one-sided dynamic. Either way, you win clarity. This is not about making her miss you through manipulation. It's about honoring the truth of the situation. If someone is pulling away, chasing only delays the inevitable or damages the connection further. Absence respects reality. It says, I see what's happening, and I won't fight it at the cost of myself. That level of self-trust is powerful. As time passes, you'll notice something else. The urge to speak fades. The anxiety lessens. You stop rehearsing conversations that may never happen. And in that calm, you become emotionally stable again. From that place, if communication resumes, it will be healthier. And if it doesn't, you will be strong enough to accept that without losing your center. So don't fear silence. Don't rush to fill the gap. Let your absence carry the message your words no longer can. Because when you stop explaining yourself to someone who isn't listening, you start listening to yourself, and that is where real strength takes root. When someone pulls away, the instinct is to fix the connection. You analyze what went wrong, what changed, what you should say or do to bring things back to how they were. Your focus narrows onto the relationship, as if repairing it will restore your sense of stability. But this is where most people make a critical mistake. Trying to rebuild the relationship while neglecting yourself only guarantees that the same imbalance will return. The real work, the only work that actually changes the outcome, is rebuilding your identity. When your sense of self becomes intertwined with a relationship, any distance feels like collapse. Your confidence weakens. Your purpose blurs. You start measuring your worth through someone else's attention. That's not love, that's dependency disguised as connection. And no relationship thrives when one person carries the weight of the other's identity. This is why focusing on self-repair before relationship repair is not optional. It's essential. Rebuilding your identity means returning to the parts of yourself that existed before the relationship took center stage. Your discipline, your ambition, your routines, the standards you once held for how you live, how you think, and how you treat yourself. Somewhere along the way, those may have softened, not intentionally, but subtly, as emotional investment shifted outward. Now is the moment to pull that energy back in. This is not about self-improvement to impress her. That mindset keeps her at the center. This is about alignment. When you are aligned with your values and direction, your energy changes. You become internally validated instead of externally dependent. You stop seeking reassurance and start radiating stability. And stability is deeply attractive not because it tries to be, but because it feels safe and grounded. As you rebuild, you'll notice changes that go beyond confidence. Your posture shifts, your tone steadies, your reactions slow down. You stop overthinking every interaction because your life no longer revolves around one outcome. You become busy with things that matter: work, health, growth, purpose. And when your life expands, emotional desperation shrinks. This process also rewires how you view the situation. You stop asking, "How do I get her back?" and start asking, "Is this dynamic even aligned with who I'm becoming?" That question alone changes everything. It moves you from fear-based attachment to self-respect. And from that place, whether she returns or not becomes secondary to your own evolution. Ironically, this is often when perception shifts. When you are no longer trying to hold the relationship together, you become more attractive within it. Not because you're distant or cold, but because you are whole again. People are drawn to those who are grounded in their own lives, not those who are waiting to be chosen. And if she senses that you are building something solid without needing her validation, it naturally alters how she sees you. But even if it doesn't, even if nothing changes externally, something far more important has already changed internally. You have reclaimed your center. You are no longer negotiating your worth for attention. You are no longer shrinking to maintain connection. And that transformation stays with you long after this moment passes. So don't rush to fix the relationship. Fix your foundation. Rebuild your identity brick by brick. Because when you become solid within yourself, every relationship in your life either rises to meet you or falls away without taking you down with it. There comes a moment in situations like this where everything narrows down to one uncomfortable truth. As long as you are afraid to lose her, you will keep losing yourself. Fear quietly shapes your decisions. It tells you to tolerate silence you don't deserve, to accept crumbs of attention, to stay available even when you feel unseen. And the longer that fear stays in control, the weaker your position becomes. This is why the final step is not about her at all. It's about being willing to lose her in order to regain yourself. Most people hear this and misunderstand it. They think it means becoming cold, detached, or indifferent. It doesn't. It means releasing the grip of outcome dependence. It means accepting, fully and honestly, that if someone chooses distance, you will not chase them into it. That acceptance is terrifying at first because it feels like giving up. But it's not giving up, it's letting go of illusion. The illusion that you can control someone's feelings by sacrificing your dignity. When you are willing to walk away, something profound shifts inside you. You stop negotiating your boundaries. You stop waiting for permission to be respected. You stop shrinking yourself to remain acceptable. And in that moment, you stand upright again. Not aggressively, not dramatically, calmly, quietly. With self-respect, this willingness is not something you announce, you don't threaten. You don't give ultimatums. You don't say, "I'm done," to provoke a response. True strength doesn't need to be declared, it's felt. It shows up in your consistency, your calm, your refusal to overextend where you are not met halfway. It shows up when you continue living your life without bitterness, without resentment, and without chasing closure. Here's the paradox most people miss. The moment you are genuinely willing to lose her is the moment you stop being easy to forget. Fear makes you predictable. Fear keeps you available no matter what, but self-respect introduces uncertainty, not manipulation but mystery. She no longer knows if you'll always be there waiting. And that realization, if there is still emotional attachment, creates impact. But this step is not about triggering regret or return. That may happen, or it may not. The real victory is internal. You reclaim your power by choosing yourself, even when it costs you someone you care about. That choice rewires how you relate to everyone going forward. You stop clinging. You stop overgiving. You stop confusing attachment with love. And if she does come back, it will not be to the same version of you. It will be to someone grounded, self-directed, and emotionally stable. Someone who is choosing the connection, not begging for it. And if she doesn't, you will still be standing, stronger, clearer, and more aligned than before. This is the final test of strength. Can you let go without bitterness, without drama, and without losing your sense of self? Because when you no longer fear losing someone who isn't choosing you, you become unshakable. And from that place, whether she returns or not, you have already won.